We're all set? Okay, we're going to start the meeting at 7 o'clock. Tonight is Wednesday, July 6th, 2022, special Board of Education meeting. Pledge of Allegiance is going to be Trustee Thompson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, public input is fundamental to the operation of Madison District Public Schools. Oh, goodness. Roll call. I just always want to get through this.
I know. Crystal Beaver. Here. Rebecca Chambliss. Here. Mark Holcomb.
Here.
Cindy Holder.
Here.
Barbara Castle.
Here.
Deborah Ott is absent with notice. Gloria Thompson.
Here.
We have quorum.
Now I'm up. Public input is fundamental to the operation of Madison District Public Schools. Our public has an opportunity to speak at every Board of Education meeting. A period of time known as public comment is set aside at each meeting to give parents and other citizens a chance to speak directly to the board about school-related topics. Anyone who wishes to speak to the board must fill out a request form and give it to the board secretary before the meeting begins. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. School employees will not use this forum to discuss job-related topics. The Board of Ed accepts comments made during public comment from anyone who follows these guidelines. Public comment is one of the many information sources the board uses before making decisions in the best interest of the children who attend Madison District Public Schools. The board also works with district staff to address citizens' questions and concerns. Did we get any notifications?
Not at this time.
Thank you. We move on to the selection of the interim
Madam President,
superintendent. Yes.
could I amend the agenda for discussion?
For what?
About a one-year contract? Because I haven't been here for the last two meetings, and I watched them both, but I haven't seen no discussion on it.
We all discussed it in great length twice, and we voted to not have a one-year
You didn't vote on
contract.
We did not
You didn't vote on
Oh, we didn't vote. We
No.
came to the consensus that we were not going to have a one-year contract. That's the superintendent.
I can second his motion for discussion on it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam President, I just sees how we don't have people pounding on the doors. I mean, I like our two internal acts, but I think we need somebody who can, who's been there before. In the state we're in, I think we need somebody who's been there before. They can, and if a one-year contract to do it, I think we ought to go with
This
one-year
is only to
contract.
put it on the agenda, Mark.
Okay.
This isn't to discuss it.
Okay.
Thank you. Just so you know, we'll get back
Okay.
to you in a second. Any other discussion on adding it? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Gloria Thompson.
No.
Barbara Castle.
Yes.
Cindy Holder.
No.
Mark Holcomb.
Yes.
Rebecca Chambliss.
Yes.
Crystal Beaver.
Yes.
Motion passes to amend agenda to include a one-year contract for interim superintendent.
So, do we want to do that one first? I guess it makes more sense. To make it 2A. Now, this would be to change the parameters that we had decided on from June 13th to July 15th.
Yes.
13th to June 13th?
July
Or July
13th
13th?
to January 15th is what parameters we had set at the meeting last time.
That's what you're talking
And
about.
that's what we agreed to, and that's what I called the applicants with.
Right, but there's still, if they want to talk about it, and because, you know, I can tell you, I contacted the names that you gave me, none of them are available, or willing to take the position. So the only one still out there would be the 2 internals and Mr. Brock. So, you know, some people voiced concern to me about, you know, can we talk about the 1 year? And till you're done, until you have an interim, you really don't have a decision. Because really, the decision is not necessarily a year, it's who you're gonna hire. If you hire Mr. Brock, then you know it goes with a year. If you hire 1 year internals, then it could be 6 months. You know, it's what you want. Now, I did get some community feedback about your internals, and it weren't necessarily on the positive side. I won't go into detail what they said, but there were some concerns raised from community members by your 2 internals for this matter.
Are we open for discussion then?
I think before you discuss 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, you should have a discussion on what you're looking for. Remember we asked you to think about the pros and cons going forward? I think that might be a good place to start, have that discussion, and see if it leads you towards one way or the other, kind of thing.
Okay, Madam President, as I already said, I believe our principal, she had an awesome interview, and I think Dr. Hill had an awesome interview, but they're both starting out. They have no experience as that superintendent goes. I believe the state of our school district, we need somebody with experience. And I think Mr. Brock's the only one out there with it. That's my opinion.
Trustee Chambliss.
I just want to start and say, I'm willing to consider any candidate that is, like for me, my vote, the best candidate for Madison. However, I have concerns with how this process is being done. When we have a superintendent doing an organized and collaborative sabotage of a candidate on the day of interview by contacting a board member with conversations that were private between him and that internal candidate, using it to twist against certain board members, knowing those certain board members have certain passions or certain things that are more important to them than others, as we all do. And board members refusing to even consider a candidate because of that, whereas that is not related to a superintendent, interim superintendent search. Why would it be the day of an interview, months and months after this conversation took place, months and months after its relevance ended, was that sent to a board member in an attempt to sway a vote? And why, as board members, when we are elected to represent thousands of voices, are we putting our heels into the ground and saying, I refuse to vote for someone because of something that has nothing to do with being an interim soup, because we value friendships over our duty to the community? So I have a huge issue with that. If you feel a candidate is the best candidate, you will be able to articulate that in so many ways. So many things you can say, so many examples you can give, and so many, facts about their experience in life can be brought up. But to completely discredit someone as a potential interim soup because of that is failing to do our duty at all. And that I have an issue with.
Anybody else? Trustee Beaver.
When we first had our discussion on the 6 month or a year, I was under the impression that we would be getting more candidates coming forth. Since we didn't, I sat down and thought about it. Mr. Scott has told us that sometimes we can get to the end of our interview process for our normal superintendent and we don't have a clear path of what we want. That would leave us in January starting this process all over again with the potential of trying to onboard 3 brand new board members if the 3 don't get reelected if they run. We're trying to scramble mid-year rather than offering Mr. Brock the 1 year. If at the end of our 6 months, we do find an interim or a normal superintendent that we all love in a 7-0 vote and that happens to not be Mr. Brock, we could possibly, you've already stated that there's money earmarked for an assistant, then he could move kind of down into that role and kind of help the transition process rather than it be just a huge abrupt, okay, mid-January, you're out, now a new person's in. He would be able to kind of, whoever we decide on as a whole, to say, hey, these are the projects that we're working on, and I feel that there would be a smoother transition in January or the end of December rather than an abrupt, changeover. My only, so that's it for now.
Trustee Chambers.
And also, we have staff reaching out and family members reaching out that, and mind you, our student count is hovering at about 890. And these people want structure and stability that they have not had in this district for the past 2-3 years. And so now we're asking staff, like, please stay, we're working on raises, we're working on showing our appreciation, we're working on getting all the kinks out and kind of smoothing out the whole district. But then we're saying, but just so you know, we're gonna bring someone in for a year, not for a couple months, and this process is occurring, we're actively working, and there's like a stop date. But we're gonna bring someone in for a whole year, and then we'll let you know next year what's gonna come. I think 6 months is too long, but I understand the need for it, and the majority of the board wished for that, and so I will easily bend and go with that. I think 6 months is too long. I think our staff, our students, and our families need structure and someone that, yes, I'm taking the reins. I'm going to do this task. I'm gonna be here. You can count on me. When I leave in June, I'll be back in September, because we don't have that in this district with teachers, staff, administrators, superintendents. So I think dragging it out an entire year is asking our families that we're barely clinging to please hang on again for a whole nother year. So we're asking a lot of people who have lost trust in us, and I don't know if we have enough trust from them to wait another year with their children, so that's just a thought.
Madam President. Trustee Thompson.
So we're gonna go out, you guys wanna go out a year, but I thought this was just for an interim, not with a contract. So what everybody here is saying is they want us to hire somebody for a year. Well, I was one of those news people on that last board, the board we had then. I thought we rushed into it, we didn't know anybody, we chose the first person. I can't say I was completely happy with that decision now, but at the time, we didn't know. Now we're a little smarter and we're paying more attention. I can't say with enrollment at 890 that a lot has been done to help that enrollment go up. There's been a lot of things checking in that things haven't been done. I'm not sure I want to give a contract. I don't know as an assistant superintendent if that's enough experience. I don't know that we even need experience. I think we need somebody to take the reins, move forward, get the board office organized. If I'm wrong, but I think a year is too long. That means that we're going to have somebody and we're going to be with that person for a year, good or bad. I wanted to see in a 6-month interim, how is this person going to work out?
Trustee Kessel. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought you were done.
Yeah.
Trustee Kessel.
My concern is, initially, we talked about 6 months, and at the time, it sounded like the thing to do. Now that we've gone through this whole process and we don't have a lot of candidates, my concern about bringing somebody in from the internal team is we're gonna leave voids where they were. Then we've got instability there. Then we've got to find replacements. And then we've got inexperience coming into the board office. And then we've got a new HR firm in there. We've got the audit coming up. We just have so many balls that we have to keep in the air that I feel very comfortable now after I really gave this a lot of thought over the weekend, like you suggested we do, Scott. And my head came back to the only way we can get Mr. Brock is if we go with a year contract. Now, I think he can help us with a lot of things past the 6 months. Let's say at the 6-month mark, well, we're not gonna start looking until January, are we, for a permanent suit, are we?
But you're deciding, part of the discussion has to be, when do you want to do the search? The fall and hope to get somebody, or do you hold it
When
off
did
to
you say
January?
it was the best to do it?
January, February.
Okay, so let's say we start there, and we find somebody right away.
This is better of the two.
Yes.
But we had already set our schedule to meet that timeline.
On the original time.
So we've already done that. That's why we went through the
Right.
schedule.
So we can still keep that schedule, I'm thinking, because Brock could stay on board. Let's say we got a new superintendent fairly quickly in the new year. Why couldn't Brock serve as the assistant if that's what we chose him to do? Or help us transition? I mean, there's gonna be something he can do. I hear all the time the board office got way too much work and everybody's overworked, and that's why I don't want to see Miss Hill, Dr. Hill, come in to take the superintendent job, because that's going to leave a void there where you guys would have to help her pick up the balls. Then if you move Patricia Perry, and I remember when she first came on board, she was struggling over there with all kinds of issues, and then we're going to take her out of there, and then we have to worry about the void we're leaving there. And to me, I think that creates for our parents, and maybe I'm wrong, all due respect, Rebecca, I would think that would make them feel more unstable if we're moving people around internally and leaving holes here and there, and jobs aren't getting done, as opposed to bringing someone in that can hit the ground running. I think I've heard someone say that we didn't want another jack of all trades type person, but I think that's what superintendents are like. They're kind of like that. That's what they do.
Good superintendents delegate.
Well, I know that, but we have differences of opinion on our past superintendent's performance. And Rebecca, I'm sorry, I must be really out of touch, because I didn't realize our outside community thought we were that unstable in here.
Who unstable?
I mean, the parents thought the district had no leadership for 3 years, and it was unstable, and they want to see stability again, and it hasn't been here. I mean, I didn't realize all that was going on. Isn't that what you were saying?
Yeah, I just don't know how to respond. If you go on Instagram, Facebook, talk to parents, look at meetings in the past.
But is that the majority of our parents, or is
It
that
is.
just a handful?
It's enough that we've lost how many hundreds of students in the past 2 to 3 years. What did we have when our superintendent took place? 1,200 students, something like that? We're at 890.
It was at least over 1,000.
Yeah, but some were lost because of that source program, so we can't even talk about the head count then. I mean, it's not even.
But how many did we lose just from
That was after
the school year ending in 20 and starting in 21? How many students did we lose just last summer? So they have thought we're not providing the stability that they need. They have questioned if their students are being educated properly, if they can, students are losing people they trust. These seniors graduated, and the statements coming out of their mouth repeatedly was, all my people are gone. All the teachers I've had for 3 years are gone. I'm graduating with a brand new class of teachers, and although those teachers like Miss Smiley and stuff, they came in like troopers, they took charge and they stepped in and filled major gaps in these kids' lives. It didn't change the fact that they lost people like Fultz, Patterson, Curran, Donzig, Benson. I could go on and on. These staff leave. And then now there's the rumor the district's closing, which by the way has never been formally said, or I've never been told anything about a district closing without even being a topic. So before it can be twisted, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the rumor is out there that the district could potentially be taken over by the state or closed because they're unsure. And would Mr. Brock even be okay stepping down into assistant soup halfway through the year? Would we be able to afford the salary of 2 superintendents? Because I'm sure Mr. Brock would not want to take a pay cut in January if we did quickly find somebody and get them in here. And then that person's not going to take a pay cut until he leaves and then get a bump. So the amount we set aside for an assistant's not going to cover a soup, and even though we're bringing him in halfway through the year, does that cover it? Would Mr. Brock be willing to step down? And for the holes in the district, I love that Mr. Brock has a ton of experience, and literally, if you look at my notes from when he interviewed, I had so many points that I highlighted about it. But I also know that, I don't know how to word it, because taking Mr. Brock out of the equation, I'm not speaking about him. Candidates can speak very well in a 30-minute interview and not necessarily perform great. We've seen performance that has taken nothing and done greatness with it with certain internal candidates. We've seen students graduating with multiple events they've never had that were paid for by the school, not the district, as like there wasn't major money asked for. The school found ways to do things for them, things these kids had not had in a long time. So I would just, for an interim only, I would personally trust someone who has, for some reason, oddly enough, had emails sent about them the day of their interview. And if you guys don't think that's sketchy or questionable, I mean, you can't honestly say, after all these months.
I've never heard anything like this, Rebecca. Can you help us explain what you're talking about? Does everybody know what she's talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea. Do you?
Yes,
You do, Cindy?
yes, I have it here.
And I'm sorry, but I feel like that's discrimination, and that's not acceptable.
And that wasn't sent the day of to me from the superintendent, but it was.
When was it sent to you then?
Long time ago.
Well, here's the weird part. It has the weird spaces. There's pieces of a sentence missing. There's no date on it. It just is sketchy at best.
But what does
It's
it
sketchy
say?
because you guys got an issue with who it's about.
No,
Yeah, it is.
no, I disagree, Mark, honest, I'm telling you.
No, because Mr. Holcomb, you don't
Because
have the
Mr.
whole story.
If I have an email, even if this was accurate, if I have an email with my boss, I certainly don't expect my boss to take it public. There's something very wrong with that, and he's done it to each and every one of us here.
And Mr. Holcomb, I did did you speak to the person the email's about?
No, I didn't.
You didn't even question?
But she, yes, in a way I have, and there were some rude comments, so.
You know the
I
email
understand.
said grades 6 through 12, when we know MES and ECC participated, so
Exactly.
the directions were not clear. We
Yes,
also
it
know
was clear,
that at the
but
time
Sarah
we lost
said
our
she
middle
wanted her
school-
kids involved too.
At the time we lost our middle school principal, I brought up that parent complaints about all staff is normal, and we were told at that time, never about her. And then, on top of that, I also brought up at that point this specific thing where repeatedly 2 administrators were asking for clarification and more information to perform the task at hand, and they were met with so much aggression about it that they just kind of winged it on their own. It was thought to be a continuing thing we were going to do every year.
It's what it ought to be.
So the thought was seniors could leave a quote note for the incoming classes as something they've learned on their way out.
Okay, like I said, you can twist it any way you want.
There's no
But I know what I was
Then
asked.
ask the person involved and don't just say you're not gonna give them a chance because of it.
Well, I don't like little fibs told to me, okay, especially in that position. What would happen as a superintendent?
Good.
Are they gonna do what they wanna do, or are they gonna listen to the board? They're gonna do what they wanna do. So I have my issues,
We've
okay?
been through that one.
Can I just
Is
say,
there
I
a
think
floor?
this is absolutely Brock. Brock doesn't want what we want, he wants what he wants. So we're already starting on that playing field.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Because he doesn't want a 6 months,
6
he
months.
only wants a 1
Because
year.
he doesn't want to leave a
But
job.
understand, he's under contract for 3 years.
And when he talked to me, because he was real pushy, and he called me and he said, I would consider it after 6 months. Now all of a sudden, that's off the table. We decide on 6 months, and he's retracted. He has the ability to do that and make that decision, but so do we. There's a couple of things here. If we were fully staffed, we wouldn't be having a lot of the struggles that we have. But we're not, and we let it happen. That's on us. So we can look at each other and say, we're part of the problem. Wait, I have a few things to say, please, and then I'll give you the floor. Oakland schools will support whoever we get. We are not fluid now by design, and we let it happen. I don't feel, can pick a superintendent based on a 45-minute interview for a 1-year contract. That makes no sense. To me, I don't know how we could justify that to anybody. Now, a 6-month contract gives us options, but a 45-minute interview for a 1-year contract, I can't look at anybody and say, we've done our due diligence. Did we put it out there? Yes. Did we look for candidates? Yes. Do we have a history of our own that people look at when they look here? Yes. Is it done? No. We know more is coming. He told me point blank he would consider 6 months. We then decided we were going to do 6 months. Now he's changed his mind. He can do that, but that doesn't mean we have to. I have to tell you the one thing about the one internal candidate that came in and talked about a 30, 60, 90-day plan, and I got it. She's never been there. But wouldn't it be wonderful to see our test scores rise? Wouldn't it be nice to have someone that was working on curriculum instead of playing with the kids on the rug in kindergarten? That's, have you guys looked at the staffing in District 7? Did anybody go online and look at the Dearborn District 7 staffing? Do they see they have 2 assistant superintendents? Did you see he has a credit card? Did you see he makes more money than we pay Mr. Abdullah? Did you guys look at that stuff? You did?
How many students are there?
20.
Well, probably twice as many as ours, but they're more than 5 times probably have an administration. And we already have somebody that said they could do it all, and it caused a problem.
Yeah, but we have an HR company now that's going to.
We do, and they're starting Monday. But that was delayed 2 months because he didn't want it. Yes, Trustee Beaver, I'll finish later.
Okay, I just want to say as adults, we can disagree without like a condescending tone towards people. You said in your statements that we're short-staffed and it's on us, yet we're pushing to take our lead principal at the high school and divide her time between an entire district and the high school. How is that not causing more of a staff shortage? The reason why I personally am not for any of the internal candidates, and it has nothing to do with them, because I think it's wonderful, I said it when they were here, that for someone to see that we need something and be willing to step up and put themselves out there, that's huge. It shows their loyalty to the district. I had voted no on our HR that was brought to us by our superintendent because of the certifications and the experience. I'm not going to vote on putting someone in, even if it's only 6 months, a year short term without that central office experience when it's already lacking.
Okay.
So I had no prior knowledge of any emails or anything. It has nothing to do with that. I think that they're both wonderful, but I just, for the central office experience, would rather go with someone for 1 year as opposed to putting somebody in with no experience for 6 months.
So go ahead, Trustee Castle.
I was just going to say, to your point, Cindy, I don't think that it would make sense for us to offer Mr. Brock a 1-year contract without bringing him back and letting us ask him some more questions. Is he even interested now? Has he just gone on his way? Does anybody know? Is he still even interested? Do you know, Scott, if
I'm
he is?
checking. I think he emailed me something.
Well, and also it's been thrown out there that in 6 months, if we get a permanent, make him an assistant. That was just a thought. You know, he would have to agree to that before a contract is
Absolutely,
ready.
it was just some, you know.
You know, he may not agree to that.
Right.
Because he's already an assistant.
Right.
Now, correct me if I didn't ask for this.
Trustee Thompson, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Perry leave the high school when we were absent a principal at Wilkinson? Wasn't she handling a couple of buildings then?
No, ma'am. So we were told in multiple emails that Ms. Cully and Ms. Perry would alternate back and forth at Wilkinson, and instead Ms. Cully came for the whole time with Angel helping and not Ms. Perry.
Okay.
So Ms. Perry ran the high school.
Why the difference?
We were never updated when it changed, and when I mentioned it in a couple emails, it was never addressed. So Mr. Dula had just took on the role of interim principal / superintendent.
So when I asked him, why did you create an office at the middle school for yourself? I never got an answer. And I was just curious.
He was like, because he had said it at a meeting once, he had said, when he was telling us all of his tasks, he was down at the table, and he was telling us all the things that he's doing and how he's overwhelmed, because we were talking about adding, like, why is the assistant soup not up? You know, why are these things not done? He said, which do you want done first? Because I can't do them all. And one of the things he said was interim principal. And then I said, but I thought Ms. Colley is the interim principal. And he said, well, I'm there helping a couple days a week.
Now, as part of this board, I remember last October, we voted to post the job for an assistant soup. It never got done. It never got posted anywhere. Can you remind us why it wasn't posted?
Because he didn't agree to it, so he didn't do it.
And then we voted again when? October, November, December?
Early this year,
Yeah, early.
he still didn't
It was
agree with
January
it.
or February. Again, we voted and it passed. Did it get posted?
Nope. He didn't want to do it.
If we had an assistant superintendent right now, we'd have more time to go through this process because we would have had somebody to step into those shoes.
That was the breakdown. Obviously, you guys have your superintendent because you were seeing eye to eye, which is part of why he's not with you any longer. I agree, but we can't fix that, Norm. We've got to move forward. You asked a couple, let me just give you some information. Dearborn Heights is 2455. Your enrollment is 946. It was 1,028, so you were 82 down this year. You were 110 down last year. Your big loss was between 19 and 20 and 21 when you lost 371 people. That was starting of COVID is when you lost a big chunk of your students. So
And what about 19, 18, 19?
18, 19 was 1509. That's the one that shows the big drop.
That's
And then
That's,
you,
That's-
14, 15, so you drop to 94.
The big drop, I think, is due to us taking away source.
yeah. 50.
So we need to go forward to the down 110 students and down 80. I mean, it just progressively kept going down and down and
Yep.
down.
Yes.
Rebecca?
I am willing to, as for my vote, I am willing to consider Mr. Brock, but not at a 1 year. I can't do a 1 year. If we're doing a 1 year, then why are we not? I mean, you give probationary staff 1 year, that's a full staff. So I mean, if we want to talk 6 months, if he's willing to, he seems very knowledgeable, he has a lot of experience. If he can come and knock our socks off in 6 months, I mean, that kind of lines him up to stay. So if he is willing to do 6 months, I could say, I'm willing to, you know, barter my choice to that, but I can't do a 1 year.
I emailed him, I'll wait and see if he said something back to me.
You already made it clear that he wasn't interested in 6 months.
That's what he shared with me.
That's not what he shared with me on the phone.
I
I got
understand.
it. He
I
did
understand,
change it after.
But
Yeah.
understand the difference between you and me is that I'm a consultant, so he's gonna be a little more forthwith with me. You're his potential boss, so he's gonna, of course, be more malleable or accepting of something like that from when you raise the issue versus when he brings it to me, because I'm not, I don't.
Well,
think it's
and
gonna
we
be-
even have a difference of opinion as to how we got there. And, Trustee Ott had said that Rod Green brought him. I asked Rod Green specifically, and he said, no, it was not him.
It was Mary Ann somebody or whatever who suggested him. I don't know who that is.
Let me refresh my memory. He already has a 3-year contract where he's
He
at,
does.
correct? And he makes quite a bit of money.
I couldn't, I don't know.
Yeah, he does.
I
He
would
makes
assume
it.
so. I figured
It's
it's-
more, I believe, I didn't bring up the numbers, but I believe his compensation is more than what Mr. Abdullah had made.
Mhm.
But I know he has the credit card, I think that was 25,000, and there were other expenses that he got.
But he knows what the paid position's paying. He knew what
He didn't ask me.
I explained, I told him what the plan, that plan on whatever Mr. Abdullah was making is about where they're gonna pay an interim right now. So he knew going in, he wasn't coming in here and getting a big raise for coming in as interim.
Well, yeah,
I
but
just,
we're redoing the contract. aren't we?
yeah, he's not getting that contract.
He's not getting
That
that
one's
contract.
gone. That one's getting redone.
Yeah.
Trustee Wheaton.
I just don't want to be, at the end of December, we've gone through this process for selecting our superintendent. We don't have somebody, or we have two people want this person, we're kind of settling with this person, and then in January having to restart the process over, which I'm for restarting it. We don't have somebody that everybody loves. Like he had stated, it's better to have a 7-0 vote than to not. And then mid-year, with all the craziness happening, the 3 new board members, trying to onboard them, and then go through this process while trying to scramble and find another interim for the second half of the year.
I'm sorry, excuse me, the microphone's not working.
Ours?
Well, yours is, but it's not streaming properly. It's glitching, so I don't know what the issue is, because we didn't have it before when we did this.
Is it better if we speak through the mic? Is it picking up? Can you tell?
No.
Can you hear me now? Testing, 1, 2. Can you hear me if we speak into here?
It breaks up a little.
It's breaking up.
I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi system,
What?
but
Oh, I don't know.
I
We need,
I have Mr. Brown's information for you too. And then look it up. His salary, just so you know, it's $124,500 plus retirement insurance and FICA, which is standard for
Yep.
everybody. But his salary is $124,488.
Keep going. What's the bottom line?
Well, with retirement insurance FICA, it's 208.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, they're actually paying 2 superintendents right now. So they've got,
And two assistants too. I
no,
think.
well, at least on this $100,000 list, there's only 1 assistant superintendent, director of special ed, 2 of the principals, and 2 teachers are over 100,000 in the district.
I'm just saying, take that 208 and add in all the other roll-ups. It's
Well,
more
the
than-
208 is the roll-up.
It's
With all the roll-ups?
That's your retirement fund, your insurance, FICA that the district pays.
Okay.
But it's pretty similar for all the candidates. It's based on whatever your salary is, retirement and insurance and FICA all based on whatever your salary range is. So, just so you have numbers and not guessing. Better to have real information than. When is your current superintendent officially done?
Next Wednesday, the 13th.
13.
January. January. That's when the email started.
And then when did you send it?
I sent it to the over as soon as she was running.
We knew she was running 5 days in advance. Did you send it 5, 6 weeks in advance, or did they ever?
How many days, 1 or 2?
For what? I'm sorry.
Did I send that to you the day of? or the day
You
of?
sent the morning of her interview.
Okay.
That's the thing, to disqualify someone because of one situation versus taking somebody as a
It's
whole
my
person.
opinion of the person.
I understand that, Mr. Holcomb, but you can't discredit an entire person, their entire career, because of one piece of information that you didn't even have both sides of.
I'm not ruining her career. I'm just saying, as far as the superintendent goes, if she's already going to do things that she wants to do her way, what's going to change that when she's the superintendent?
But someone is not the culmination of one act.
Everybody wants, everybody wants to have.
The goal here is well-rounded people, employees and students.
Yeah, I agree.
And that means we take people as a whole and not just one moment that, in honesty, you don't know the whole situation of that. You didn't get both sides. And that's not fair. That's why Madison's in this position. I'm sorry, Ms. Thompson, but that's why Madison is in the position we're in, because we do things based on an emotional response to an action.
Madison is in the shape they're in because we had some crooked people in office.
I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about the part of, I'm not talking about the crooked people that were in office. I'm talking about the fact that we vote based on friendships, alliances, and personal feelings, and not always with the data. Again, I'm saying, if Mr. Brown is the best candidate, I'm willing to consider it based on this. That's supposed to be a two-way road. We are supposed to work together as 7 to come up with the best option for Madison, not dig our heels in, say, I'm not doing this. When we left the day we spoke about salaries, so many staff reached out, not even knowing what they were gonna get or if their contracts were even up for renewal. So many staff said, that was the best meeting I've seen in so long. The 7 of you worked together, you were laughing, you were talking, you were working together. That's why I sent an email saying, I'm so proud of us, because honestly, it was the first time I walked out of a board meeting in so long and felt good. We have to work together, but to dig our heels in on one thing because of something, we just can't. Like, you have to at least have both sides of the story. If both sides of the story, then you say, I feel this way, I'll be like, okay, we can agree to disagree. But you don't have the whole story, that's all.
I'm going to say, Mark, because you weren't here, the compromise was 6 months, because we started at 3 to 4 months, which is traditional. So, just so you know the whole background of it, it wasn't just 6 months. The compromise between those of us that were sitting here at the time was the 6 months.
Okay, well, with all the things
Reiterate something? The whole premise was to get to know the interim superintendent before we turn him into a permanent, rather than jump in with both feet, go for a year, and then we're not satisfied 6 months down the line. And think back to ourselves, gee, I wish we'd have done this as a 6-month interim to get to know this person, to see if he's gonna work out, or are we just getting the same old stuff? And that's where I was at. I wanted 4 months. We settled on 6 months.
The one thing I guess I want to add, and only because I've been around the block a time or two, new people come and go. It's a part of the process. We've all been new. We've all jumped in. We've all had contracts. That's just the way it is. That's a part of doing business. I thought that we were going to have an interim. Maybe they would be worth keeping, but the process to look for our permanent person was always going to be our goal. This was a temporary interim person to get our real person.
I just feel like we got the bond, we got the HR, we got holes we gotta fill, and I think for somebody with no experience, I think it's gonna be too much. I think 6 months
The
is...
bond isn't even gonna be used until spring. They already told us that at a meeting. They're not even gonna start till next spring because of backup with construction and everything. That's not even something that the interim is gonna be looking at, right, dealing with right now.
And we will get support from Oakland schools. The gal had said whoever we get, but especially if we did pick an interim, would make sure that we had all the support that we needed here.
Did you ever get back to me, Scott?
I'm just gonna miss that.
I keep refreshing, see if he gives me an email back here. I may have to step out and call him.
I believe, didn't he only interview here? Like, he has a 3-year contract and then he interviewed here. So I would think he's still interested. I mean,
Well, he sent me his certification numbers today. So
yeah.
that would tell me he's still interested, because he wouldn't send them.
Based on a year.
Well, he would have said, I just asked for their credentials so that we knew they all had certifications. And he sent it to me. He said, I thought you had it, but I'm going to send it again to make sure. So
Because
that-
I know when we had the conversation, I told him it might be 3 to 4 months, which was a typical superintendent search. And like I said, he did reiterate that he had a 3-year contract somewhere else.
So let's look at another one. If we do a search on the timeline we have, and we get to December, you don't have a candidate, what's your plan?
Well, that gives us 6 months to look at the interim person and decide whether or not we want to keep that person. If we are not happy, it's your job to bring us a candidate.
What I'm saying is, we get through that whole process, and you don't like any of the candidates, which is a very possible realization, because, again, searching in the fall is very difficult. It's not as difficult as it used to be, because soups are leaving all year round, but it takes somebody who's really willing to step out of their current role mid-year, which is why we didn't want you to do it over the summer. But let's say we get to December, you don't like any of the candidates, you go, Scott, we don't like any of these. Then we gotta go back and do it again. Start in January, do another 14 weeks. What's your plan from that December point?
Well, our plan at that point would be we would either re-up the interim, or we would, at that point, call Oakland schools and see who's available. Part of the problem that we had with candidates now, as you very well know, is it's summer. the timing of when we were looking was god-awful.
Yep.
So we have a better shot at other candidates, even if it was temporary in December, as opposed to now. So I don't think that's a threat I'm worried about.
It's not a threat. What I'm trying to get you to think about is there's a lot of moving parts. And so I don't want you to get hung up on one when there's all these pieces that have to fit together. That's what I'm trying to get you to think about this. It's not just a 6 months, it's from point A to point B, we've got to make sure the school district's operating. And whoever's superintendent has that right, has that job to make sure this district's moving in the right direction, whether they're here 3 months or 3 years. As long as they're in that title, you need them to go. So I'm just trying to get you to make sure you're thinking of the whole playing field and not just this narrow place.
Rebecca, and then I'll say.
I just don't like the idea that we say we want experience, and then we'll take the only candidate we've interviewed with experience for a full year. And again, he sounds like he has a lot of experience, he's very well spoken, he's able to answer every question asked. This is not about Mr. Brock, it's about the fact that Madison is, whether we want to say it or not, at the point that we have the opportunity to gain a lot of momentum and push forward. You know, basically under new management, like come back to Madison, we're bringing a lot of things back, we're working really hard. And so, I just don't want to say we want experience and that's our only criteria. The first person with experience who walks through the door, we're like, we'll take you for a year. You know, what's the out? What if 6 months in, we're not happy? He's here for a year. You know, whereas if it's 6 months, what we tell him, you know, this is basically like a trial to see how you would do as a permanent. He's gonna do a great job. And then after 6 months, if we do like, and we wanna keep longer, we can extend. But we're not required to. I'm just nervous about just saying our only criteria is experience, and the one person who has it will take it. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, we've kind of done that. You know, we've said we have this, and we have somebody that can do it, we'll take them. And jumped into a superintendent that was an intern that turned into 3 years. And this is not about him in particular, I'm just saying in general, we didn't do a wide search. We didn't do what these other districts do with 19 candidates narrowed down to 6. Like, we didn't do that. So.
And I would highly encourage you, even if you were to take Mr. Brock on, I wouldn't just say, oh, we like him, we're gonna go. You need to do a full search, including him,
Right.
so that you can show your community you're doing your due diligence, and it's almost like king of the hill, because he's a known commodity to you at that point, but he's got to beat out all the other candidates, and you might get that diamond in the rough that's not him. But again, it's really up to how you guys present it to him, so that he feels like he's comfortable. You know, obviously he's putting his career out there
Right.
by taking a position like this, and so that's why I think he's hedging his bet on that piece of it. So, but I would charge you to do the full search, whether you like him or not, because then you know, and you go to your community and say, we've dug under our bush, we've done our due diligence, we poked, we prodded, we interviewed, we looked at all their paper, and this is the best person. It may be him, it may be somebody else. Maybe somebody you don't even know about today, who decides this is the place to be and comes. So I wouldn't get into, well, if we like him, we'll keep him. No, get in the mindset is, you're gonna do a full search. Be it this fall
Right.
or in January, you're doing a full search. Because that's the only way you're gonna know and have confidence as a team, whether it's you or other board members. You're already starting the process, so even if we bring new board members in, we'll get them up to speed very quickly. I mean, life goes on, we've got a board, we're gonna work, but you wanna do a full search. It's highly recommended for you guys.
Trustee Thompson, and then Mr. Holden.
See, I think I think we're putting the cart before the horse. He hasn't even seen the contract we're gonna offer him. I can tell you it's not going to be the contract that he may have looked at or thinks he's looked at. Because when I realized, looking at a graph, that we were very highly paying people, I'm thinking this is a small district, somebody shouldn't expect to get that. As especially walking in off the street. I just think we're putting what if he doesn't accept the contract?
Well, that's a whole, we got a lot of moving parts on
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
it, you know, kind of thing.
That's why an interim makes more sense to me, you know.
Well, and can I add to an internal candidate if we ever got to that
I'm
point?
gonna step
It
out
just,
and try to
they
follow
would
him real
already
quick.
still be.
Because it may be a moot point.
So that isn't going to be an issue. But like I said, I am not for a one-year contract. I won't, I can't, in all good conscience, support that. Trustee Chambliss.
I was gonna ask you,
Well, he walked out, so he's the one that wanted to ask.
I was gonna ask, since you spoke with Mr. Brock, and like I haven't, or we haven't, if you were to tell him, like, look, we're a small district, we have our issues, we're a little bruised, but we're in the fight, like, will you come here for 6 months? This is basically a 6-month interview, like, we are, you know, obviously gonna do a full search in January, like we already plan to do, but this gives you such a huge leg up if you come in and, you know, knock our socks off, get everything running smoothly, get the HR firm going, and get anything that has to come with a bond done, get all the staffing done, get all the curriculum, because the high school just completely changed all the curriculum, just created a committee for it last year, so that's a whole new thing for the staff, and help with enrollment, and he kind of shows us, like, this is what I do. You know, I'm not just experienced walking in the door as the only experienced candidate. Like, if he understands that, that kind of gives him a leg up, do you feel that he would consider it? Or is he gonna stick with?
Like I said, when I talked to him, now remember, Angel interviewed him before any of us heard from him. So, Angel is the one that's talked about parameters with him, which was not professional. That was our job.
Are you sure?
So, yeah, because Angel says he talked to him. Angel sent the email that
Yeah,
said.
asked him if he wanted to come and apply. Did
No,
that
he
necessarily
said he
mean
only
parameters?
wanted a year, and this and that. He made his wishes very clear with Angel to begin with.
Because I did a little bit of digging, and Ron Green suggested Mary Ann Sear, which is who you did. When Angel called her, she said, I'm already in a position where they're paying me the exact same amount that I was getting for interim to be, to mentor this person. But we had this guy, that was Mr. Brock, that had, because she's at Melvindale right now, that came all the way to the second round of interviews. He may be interested, he's looking for
Because he
some
still
interim.
hasn't been
So
picked by
that's where
anybody
he
else.
was, so
Right.
I don't want you to have in your head that it was Angel's pick, it came from Mary Ann Sear, which is,
Angel
That's what she
shouldn't
does,
have been
is
a part
a-
of it. Had they just sent it to us and he stayed out of it, it would have been a much more cleaner process. But, because Angel didn't have, it should not have gotten involved in what's the length of the contract, what is it that
I
he
agree with
wants.
not getting involved in parameters,
That,
but.
But there you go. Anyway,
Anyway.
anyway, what I was going to say, and now I lost my train of thought. So go ahead, Ms. Thompson, maybe it'll come back.
I have concerns too, because I did check into each one of the candidates. He was the one candidate, he interviews a lot. If he interviews a lot, why hasn't he been chosen? That's a red flag for me. Just saying.
So I did talk to him, he's in a closed session in his district right now, so he had to step up. So that's why he didn't respond to my email. He would be interested in the 6-month kind of gig, 6 months interim, 6 months assistant for that period of time, and then be able to interview for the full-time position. So he would be interested in doing that. So that takes that piece of it off. His salary though is what we talked about, and he's obviously expecting to at least be in the same realm of what he's making today. And it's actually, he just got bumped, it's 134 now. So he's expecting to be somewhere in that realm, obviously, you know. And it's always, first contract for a superintendent is always their best contract. Now, it's an interim contract, but it's not going to jump. If he was to hire you're not gonna jump it up 10%, 20%. You know, it's gonna be very close to where he's at for his interim contract. You might do a couple of points, but it's gonna be close to that. So that's where he's at. Take it for what it is. How that's, you guys wanted to ask those questions, so I went and got them for you. So, any other questions about him?
How much did you say his salary was right now? I was writing it down.
On his website, it's 124, it's now 134.
Okay, thank you.
Total was 209?
Huh?
Total was
209.
209.
It's gonna be more than that now. Could be 10,000 more. So it'd be 218.
So how do we move from here where we seem to have a 3-3?
I have a solution.
Playing dodgeball.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in support of Mr. Brock, even with the experience. However, the only way that I would consider supporting him, even in a 6-month, is if we looked at making Ms. Perry an assistant superintendent. So we would have a fallback. We have the money, it's built into our contract. She can start working on the curriculum, and that helps at the board office as well. That's the only way I can support that without good conscience. Trustee Chambliss?
Just want to make sure I get this right. I write everything down. It's crazy. So when you say you'll support Mr. Brock and Perry as assistant soup, would that be a 6-month contract as assistant soup? And then if he goes to interim, we'll do our search for formal search for an assistant soup, and she will go back to high school. At that point, once we're like stabilized more, but if he drops down to assistant soup, she just goes back to high school. So it's like a 6-month for her, a 1 year for him, with the contingency of half and half.
Well, I don't want him for a year. We want to do 6 months.
Right.
We would take him, we would bring her on to help fill the holes and work on the curriculum. So she could be the assistant soup / curriculum.
I see.
And she would be here. If he flies, like everybody is hoping that he will, then it's all going to work itself out.
I, for one, don't agree with that. I'm one person, but again, that's putting someone in a position without any experience. I know that she's working on her certification, and maybe once that's done, that could be a conversation we had, but too often we're just put people in places without any certifications, without any work history in that. I can't support that.
Ms. Perry doesn't have her certification.
Not for a superintendent.
Right.
She may not have gone through Student Academy and some of that stuff. She's still a baby when it comes to time and service.
She is the administrative.
Right, she's got her administrative certification.
Right.
She happened to be principal, but she hasn't been probably through the superintendent academy and some of that additional training for central office.
That's the only way I will support Mr. Brock, even at 6 months.
So it would be a 6-month contract for both of them, him as interim soup, her as assistant soup / curriculum, and then after 6 months, we do a formal search for a permanent soup, which might include him if he wants to, might not, if he doesn't want
Well, Trustee Holcomb, go ahead.
What is our HR, where do they stand as far as hiring assistant superintendents? They still bring it to us, correct? They search for them?
They can.
I mean, that's why we hired these people, right?
And they were kind of put off. I just found out they're coming Monday. They have this week off, but there was a communication breakdown. So they are going to be here Monday, working. It's been delayed, but that delay will be resolved come Monday. I talked to her personally today because I know there's work that needs to be done, and they do it. And again, if we had extra people, this work would have continued to get done.
But the person you need is you have to have a superintendent that's in position doing the job. Because that's not your work to figure out who to put in these positions or, moving this over to there. That's a superintendent job. They live and die with the team they put in place.
But when you have a superintendent that doesn't follow the direction of the board, then we have issues.
But
Correct. And that's why
we
he's
got a
not,
brick wall.
that's why.
What's happened up to now, but understand that that's really their job to come to us with a recommendation for those positions. Their whole career is based on who they hire. They put them in these positions, be it an assistant superintendent, a building principal, classroom teacher, or bus driver, because when you evaluate them, you're evaluating them on the whole district, so they're being evaluated on the job everyone who touches your district goes through. So it's a catch-22 right now, because you're in that turmoil of, you don't have somebody doing the job, you have a title, but not, doing it, that you're divorcing. So till you get an interim and you can sit down and come up with a game plan, you're gonna be in a kind of a swirly here for a little.
So, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, are we doing a full superintendent search starting in January and a full assistant superintendent, or are we only having the assistant soup just till January, or like once we figure out our permanent soup?
I will do whatever the pleasure of the board is,
Okay.
if we can agree to that, I'll do whatever they want to do. Trustee Castle.
So, based on what you were just saying, Scott, does it make sense for us to, let's say we bring on whoever is going to be our interim soup, let's just say Mr. Brown.
Smith.
Mr. Smith. And then along with that, we're going to all of a sudden appoint assistant soup, which we've never had before.
That's not true. We haven't, but the district has.
We always had an assistant.
That's when the district was a lot bigger too, and more financially stable than what we've been.
No, we were in deficit by $5 million and we had an assistant soup.
Well, maybe that's part of the reason we were in deficit, because we couldn't afford it. Is that possible?
I don't
Kept the
believe so.
district
but
running somehow.
The history of that isn't up for discussion
No, you're
right
right.
now.
But is that new soup, interim soup in a kind of a weird position, if you will, all of a sudden, here you go, you get this district, but by the way, we're gonna also give you an assistant soup at the same time that's never been here, not having given Mr. Smith a chance to see if in fact he feels that that's going to be needed, because like you said, his job's on the line. This is his success story, if you will. I mean, is that a good thing to do?
You don't want it. I will tell you.
I'm catching my breath here, I gotta be careful.
I asked him.
I'm being careful.
You know,
I asked him that.
there is a superintendent. He is the assistant now. He's not a superintendent. He's
No,
an
but
assistant.
what I'm saying,
So he's got to be somewhat knowledgeable about all of this
And
stuff.
I did ask him about having an assistant.
I asked him about having an assistant soup for a district this size, and he said he didn't think we needed one.
No,
But
he said
yes, he
would
did.
take any help he could get.
But then he went on to say, because you said, Cindy, that
That's
we
right,
had
because he
earmarked
saw
in the
both
budget-
sides of the coin.
The earmark
There
in the
you
budget,
go.
I have never
Which is
seen,
why I
I
don't
have
want
never
him.
seen a dollar figure earmarked in that budget for an assistant soup.
It-
I don't know where that is
It's,
in our budget, but I've never
It's-
seen it.
it was a line item that we talked about specifically.
But anyway, he said he was trying to please us that day, and
That's our point.
but he said he'd take all the help he could get. But he candidly said he did not believe we needed an assistant soup in a district this size.
I can't tell you if you need an assistant or not. But whoever you bring in, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Roberts, you need to let them get in and have 20, 30 days to figure out where they're at and who's best fit is part of the problem versus, because really, again, how many employees do you have as a board? So it's really not up to the board to appoint assistant superintendent,
it's
building
not.
principal. It's brought to you by the superintendent, but that's because we're the legal entity of the district. but they're still being hired by the superintendent. They just can't sign the contract. You do, because you're the legal entity from it. So
Then,
I'm just
given
making sure
that,
you're
I will
talking.
not support Mr. Brock at all.
Well, that's why I'm not using his name, I'm using Mrs. Smith, and look at a bigger one, take the
No.
4 personalities out of it right now and figure out the game plan, and then you can start to put pieces in place.
Didn't it was money related to COVID that we were able to pull and set aside. And when we had talked about an assistant soup, we had said we would do it for the year, and as money's drying up, we would reevaluate if the assistant soup was any longer needed after the first year. Just because we thought kind of getting everything rolling smoothly and kind of working properly and functioning properly, we would see what the assistant soup's needs were and if we needed it to continue. That was what I thought.
Well, what happened was, Mr. Abdullah, when he thought he was going to get the job at District 7 in Dearborn, called me and Gloria and Barb in and said, oh, by the way, I'm leaving, and you need to get an assistant superintendent, so there's a bridge. He didn't get the job.
So the 4 of you guys had a meeting with how?
No, I wasn't even here. I wasn't on the board.
No,
She
he
said
called
Bob
us.
Barr.
It was
She
you
said
and
Bob,
I
Bart,
and
and Bob.
Debbie, and who else?
Debbie
Might have been just the 3
Debbie
of us.
Odd.
He called the 3 of us in his office to tell us that he had interviewed, that he thought he was going to get the job, and that we needed to put an assistant in place.
So we've already made that decision twice to hire. So the semantics of that are a little,
No, whether you hire it, it's not the position on it, it's who fills that position. Whether you have a deputy or not, I mean, you've made that decision, you put it in the budget, but who fills that slot?
The superintendent.
Needs to be the superintendent's job. Because again, they've got to have trust in whoever their internal team is to get you through the next 6 months, a year, to get your district going forward. Basic kids in Sanford are coming in, what, 5 weeks now? You know, we've got kids to educate, so.
trustee Holt.
All right, well, I like Mr. Brock's experience. Mrs. Perry did one heck of an interview. I watched it on YouTube. And Dr. Hill did one fantastic interview. I like them all. As far as their interviews go, they all did a good job. So I will support whoever gets it. That's why.
Trustee Thompson.
I didn't think his interview was that great. I'm sorry. Experience or no experience. And I did think one candidate, her interview, she blew it out of the park. She was prepared, she was ready. I felt like if we had hired her on the spot, she'd already be at the board office doing it. I don't know. I can't support Brock either.
Can I say something that's kind of just like in the air? I feel like this decision is being ran off of a personal thing that, okay, this person's gonna come in here and now find all of this dirt out on somebody else, and that's why we're doing it. Not thinking how we're going to leave our high school even more short-staffed. Everybody complains that our staff is short. I get it, they are. Everywhere, it's not just in medicine, everywhere in education right now, our staff is short. People are leaving left and right in the education field. I just don't understand why we're pushing to make that even shorter and even harder. Even when our assistant principal had to leave and come here at Wilkinson for a few months. There was so many complaints about things that were dropped, balls were dropped, and it's not any one person's fault. It's just you can't take one person that has 20 tasks, now give that same person 40 tasks and expect all 60 to get done without something falling through the cracks. And too much stuff falls through the cracks here. Too many people wear way too many hats. It's been complained about so many times here in Madison for us just to turn around and do that again.
And can I say, we have a principal who was new, who, someone had said that she had a lot of conflict. That's not what I had heard, but I watched her a little bit. But there's only like 500 kids at the high school. We had one principal and one assistant principal when there was 1,200 kids at the high school when I went there. So I don't think that should be a problem for 6 months, especially if it's going to escalate or at least work towards improving our overall student scores and everything else. That in itself is what's going to bring people back. There's no more. Mary, do you know how many kids we have in the high school now?
Less than 400.
Less than 400. So it shouldn't be a problem.
It
And
shouldn't
we
be,
should,
but it always.
well, then we need to hire a home auditor or something.
And again, it's no fault. I'm not saying that she didn't do a wonderful job. I'm not trying to like
And
bring the
just,
camera down on her.
just so you know, I can't wait for the 13th to come and go and for us to start fresh. And I am not suggesting, although I could, but it had not occurred to me. Forensic audits and all that stuff was never anything that came to mind. Okay? I have never heard anybody say anything like that. Were there mistakes made? Maybe, because there's a lot of people doing a lot of tasks. But that had nothing to do with, that has nothing to do with my decision. I just have done this more than once, and I know what my gut tells me, and I've watched probably 30 interviews in the time I've put here. So, that's my vote. Anybody else?
So my hearing, right now, you're at 3-3, kind of in limbo of where everybody's at, kind of mixed, not necessarily 3 here, but kind of a mishing of it. The reason I asked is because you still got another week to make this decision. My suggestion is you schedule for next week, so that Ms. Hott's here too, and you have your full board, so that whatever decision you made, no one can say, well, I wasn't there, I didn't make it. You have to be involved together.
Well, she
It's a
won't be
4-3.
here until after Angel's gone. She won't be back until,
She's back.
she said the 14th.
She told me she's back in town on the 12th, the night of the 12th, which is Tuesday, and Angel's date is what?
The 13th.
The when?
Wednesday, the 13th.
So Wednesday the 13th.
Is it the 13th?
So if you were to have a meeting the 13th, he'd still be covered, because he's still listed as your superintendent, even though he's been moved to the other district. He's still, till basically midnight, he's your superintendent.
Trustee
So you have
Chambers.
that option, just giving you some lay of the land here.
Could we consider a second interview?
That's what I was just going to ask.
I know it's a hassle, I know it's another meeting, but
With the 2 candidates?
we have to go in this united, whether I want one person and somebody else wants another person, whatever the majority, whatever the vote ends up being, we have to go and we can't go another school year divided. We have seen what happens in the difference this board can do when we come together. So I know it's a hassle, but maybe that would solidify opinions or decisions a little bit more. Don't you think? I mean, it's split in the middle, and I mean,
You totally break down the middle.
so if we do another interview, we have a chance to ask
Yeah, but-
questions. I mean, because we need 4. Even if tonight we voted 3-3, it fails. A motion fails, we don't have 4, so we're not gonna get that tonight.
You can I can always ask them if they want to come back next Wednesday. You have, second interview with each of them. And then after that, you have your discussion of where you're at that point. And in the meantime, you're thinking about, okay, what can I acquiesce? Where is there some movement from everyone to find that common ground of moving forward? And that's what you're trying to do, because you do have to be, if you go 4-3 vote for the interim, you're setting that person up, but you're setting yourself up for the next superintendent search, because the first question I'll get from any candidate is, what's the board like? And if I have to be honest and say, well, they're split right in the middle, the candidates aren't coming, because they can go down the street. They have the jobs to go to. You're just one of, 80 or 90 openings this year. They can take their toys and go down the street, make a little less, but work with a board that's high functioning, isn't doing things, you can split and not working collaboratively. So that's where part of this process with when I work with you through the search is, how do we get you all on the same boat through this process so that you're all one collaborative team. You don't always have to agree with each other. You don't even have to like each other. But when we're in here working, you've got to be thinking about Madison, period. Madison, the community, Madison, the schools, Madison, the staff, Madison, the children. You represent them all, not any one. We're not an employment agency. Our job is to educate kids. And so that's where you're at. So.
I have a question. So would you suggest, since we know we're not using the old contract, that we get our butts in gear and get a contract ready? Because it's something that the person we choose is going to have to sit down and negotiate with us anyway. We're going to have to give a little bit, maybe go up, but maybe come off. There are things in that contract that are just going to be gone.
Right. Oh, yeah. You always got to have it's always the opportunity to clean your contracts up.
Right.
Stuff gets in there that shouldn't be gone already in.
Because, I
The old, we own cars.
went over that contract
Yeah.
thoroughly.
We used to do cars and buy cars every 2 years.
Yeah, we're not going to be doing cars and mileage.
Yeah.
So
yes,
is that a good suggestion?
Because
To
I would do
have a
that
contract ready, so at least the person coming in like Mr. Smith sees this contract and thinks, okay, well, maybe we can negotiate, but,
Right. Oh, yeah.
he
You
can
don't want
look
to be
at it and
surprised.
say, oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, I want a totally different, yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
looking
get it
for
done, get it to
something
me,
else.
and I can get it to the two
Because we don't know
candidates.
at this point
and
if
ask
he
them to
would
review
settle
it.
for less.
And are they amenable to it, which is what I do in a full search. I always get it to them before second interview so that we don't get surprised when they come in and say, well, no, I want this, this, and this, and it's like, no, the board's not gonna give you that.
Okay.
So are you stuck on that? If you are, then tell me now. And we're not gonna put you through the process, and I'm not putting the board through the process. If we know going in, we're not gonna get a contract.
Right.
That's not good for anyone.
And that was a mistake. We were a young board. We hadn't, and we used the old contract.
Yep.
We didn't
And that's-
even, we
and that's-
barely looked at it.
Partly why you hire us to come in and help you, and even though we're supposed to be doing the full search, that's why I'm here helping you through the interim, because part of it's self-preservation. I need you guys to be functioning at a high level through this process so that we can go out and get you the best candidates. And I don't want to go out and say, I wasn't part of this, so, I can't tell you what happened, but here's where we're at. And that's not a good place to be. That's why I'm here. I'm not getting paid to be here. This is all free for you guys. I'm here because we need to get this district moving in the right direction. You got kids coming.
And see, and my opinion was, we had a candidate who kind of, for me, blew it out of the park. We need to get someone in place, because if it is that person, that'll give us time to hire a principal.
It'll give that person time.
Right,
To
that
find a
person
principal.
time to hire. It's not like we're gonna leave everybody in the lurch. We've already got an assistant principal there
Right.
who will handle things, I'm sure, until that person hires somebody. Do you
And you just gotta be careful with a lot of interims and bouncing, because, at some point, somebody's not gonna take the job if they think it's only a few months. Kind of thing. If they think this one's gonna go as assistant, come back and bounce around, you gotta think about all the dominoes and you know, the chest, what's 10 rooms down the hall.
Trustee Holcomb, go ahead.
Who's gonna do the contracts? You guys?
The legal is working on
We
it.
were working on it, okay. So we'll
We'll
all
be
be able to
doing,
look at
me
that?
and Gloria will be
Everybody will
doing
get
the
to see it.
negotiation. We sent everybody, you have a blank, regular contract, a regular sample, and then that is a very generic one. And then you can compare that online to the one that Angel had, because it is very different. And then we can make changes to that generic one if we would like to.
So we have to
Now,
vote
let me
Yes.
just say, the only reason it's her and myself was because she called me because I'm treasurer.
on it. Right.
But if somebody wants to do it and, oh, no, I don't want Mrs. Thompson doing that, I'm fine.
No, that's fine, I just.
You know, I just want cohesiveness in this board from now on.
No, okay.
Now, you're not going to approve the language of the contract. It's a blank. You're going to approve, once you negotiate, whoever does the negotiation, that comes back. What you're doing right now is if there's something in there you have a problem with, or you think needs to be in there, now's the time to get it to Cindy, to get put in there, in the draft model, so that when we give it to the candidates, there's no surprises. Oh, by the way, we're going to add 3 more caveats there to pull this out now.
So they will have these contracts, look them over before the 13th meeting. They have another
The
entry.
candidates
No.
Yep.
will get the blank?
Yeah.
Okay,
You
so
want them to
then,
see it so they know what they're looking at.
okay, no, the only reason is, because I've given them and I haven't gotten any feedback
Right.
back yet. So if we have any changes, we
here's
need to
what
do
we're
it
gonna do.
before
You
Monday.
got till Friday, 5 o'clock, to make any comments or changes to that contract to Cindy. Cindy's got to get it to the attorneys on Monday. I need it by Tuesday to give it to the candidates, so they have Tuesday night and Wednesday during the day to review it. Okay, so we're going to start putting some hard deadlines on stuff so that we can get these things done and not keep kicking down the street. So Friday, 5 o'clock, any comments on the contract, give them to Cindy. Cindy, on Monday, you're taking them to the attorney, and Tuesday, you're sending them over to me, whatever the attorneys have at that point. I'll give them to the 2 candidates.
All 3 of them might not even be interested in it.
And that's why we want to let them know up front. Here's what we're looking at, here's, because it's only fair to them, not to surprise them. They look at Angel's contract online and think, oh, this is sweet, and then I'm changing it, gutting it, that's fine, but we need to let them know so that they're not surprised. Again, we want to build trust.
Right.
They need to trust you as much as you need to trust them. And so those are the little things that have to happen so that we build that trust from day one.
But we were looking at for an internal 833 a day as what? Because Mark, you weren't here. Angel was making $833 a day. So for an internal candidate, the difference between their pay and $833 a day is what they would be compensated. For an external candidate, we would have still the $833, but the benefits.
Right. Well, and the 833 can change. Again, the one, Mr. Smith is saying, well, here's what I need, so whatever that number works out. But remember, your contract with Angel has a lot less days in it, right? You're gonna go back to where it's supposed to be, a 50-week contract, not a 40-week contract that a building administrator gets. That it's out of the realm for, superintendent's gotta be, they get
So
their 2 weeks.
what
3
is
weeks.
the math for that? 40 days divided into,
Well, 240 into whatever, so take 130 or 135 divided by 240, and that's probably more closer to what you're thinking about. Because even your building principal or your central office person, they're taking on a lot of extra responsibility. They're gonna want to be compensated at that higher level for the work, even if it's for 6 months.
240 days?
yes.
Usually it's
It's
240.
only 562.50, and that's a day.
Did you say 240 or did I do it wrong?
No, usually it's 240, I'd have to double check.
240,
Okay,
okay.
so that's about 560
To
a
get to
day.
what total,
So that's 560 a day, that's quite a bit.
So
560
560 times a 50-week,
Right?
that's 28,000.
You did some wrong.
Yeah, I did
I
something.
know. 240 days times the 533,
I'll say 560.
right?
That's 134,000.
Right, so you're closer to, and again, it's negotiable. He may say, well, I want to work 230, but the 135. You've got some flexibility there that you go in.
Yeah,
You
we
just don't want to
would
go
be putting him
210.
right at what he's at now.
Huh?
At those numbers, he'd be where he's at now. So
And
if we raised it to, say, 650, another $100 a day.
Yeah. Then you'd be in the ballpark for any of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And you understand, you're gonna pay a superintendent either way. It's the
Right.
one salary you gotta pay.
Right.
You're gonna pay somebody, it's the one salary you don't want to shortchange. You get what you pay for. And if you try to lowball, then that's what you get. You get someone who's not gonna come in and run through brick walls. So it's a catch-22. Somebody got a hand over here, I thought.
I was just gonna ask, so when we're looking at the contracts, we're giving our suggestions to the holder by Friday at 5. What are some of the, like obviously we wouldn't pay the monthly car payment and mileage, we would just do mileage is more realistic. And we would up the days from, what is it, like 206 to 240, and change that around a little bit. But what else would you suggest is a healthy contract? Because the one we have is so padded with just a lot of different things. What would you suggest?
Well, the other two big ones obviously are vacation and sick days. Whether they get paid out at the end or not, which is pretty standard. And if they don't use them, they get paid for them at the daily rate when they leave, be it 6 months or a year. But other than that, it's really for them to come in and give you some ideas too. But they can get creative, you can get creative. Again, I've seen it where superintendent doesn't take insurance, but takes annuity. And so we're paying into the annuity instead of insurance because the spouse has the insurance. So there's a lot of different caveats. It's really down to who the person you're going to be negotiating with, and what their situation is, and what they're looking for. What you want to do is make sure you're getting Cindy. It's not only things you want in, but concerns. So in this case, mileage, no car. Phone, no phone. Phones. It's an honor
Yeah,
these days.
well, yeah, business phone, but,
Hmm?
yeah.
Yeah, and some districts own the phone, and so it goes super, versus them using their personal phone. There's a lot of ways to do it. You just gotta think about how you best serve, and that's where you gotta get with your business office, figure out what do they do for other district phones. My company, we just give stipend. You own the phone, you take care of the contract, we just give you X amount every month to cover your bill. And that way we don't own the phones, rather the phone business.
Now, does it change the legality of your communication with people as well? If you own the phone as opposed to?
Nope.
Okay.
No, remember, he's not a public elected official, so it's different. He doesn't have the FOIA. Look, you do, so it doesn't matter if you have a school district phone, your personal phone, your Yahoo Mail, or whatever. They're all FOIAble because you're elected officials. So we got the contract, Friday, 5 o'clock, Monday to attorneys, Tuesday to mid. Who are you looking to interview, invite back on Wednesday night? Who am I calling? Who am I following up with?
Maybe we should take a poll as to our persons.
Person or persons,
Yeah.
who do you want to talk to?
I think all three, right?
It's up to you guys, you tell me.
There's 4.
Oh, that also, yeah, okay.
Is that kind of misleading people though? If we want all 4 back and we really know we don't want we only want a couple out of the 4?
I've only heard like 2 or 3 of them being talked about. I wouldn't bring, if you don't see that 4th person being your person, then we're not going to bring them back and put them through another double phone show
Just three.
kind of thing. If you see any of those 3 being your candidate, then yes, we'll interview them.
I agree with the 3.
Do You need to know the three?
I know which three they are.
Okay.
Oh, I'm pretty smart, I can read between the lines. How early can you start interviews? What time can you as a board be here?
I'm retired, so I can be here anytime.
You know, I'm committing, I've got
But
to
he
make sure.
works,
I'm
he
there.
can't.
I work until 4:30, and I work out Romulus, so it takes me a good hour to get home.
Okay,
So 6 at the earliest.
But then if there's like construction or an accident, or, and then you gotta eat something real quick.
well, the only reason I ask is you want to get it started, because if you do 45 minutes with a few minutes between, you start at 6, it's still 8 o'clock, and you haven't even started the debate. You know, you could be here, we don't want to be here at midnight, because only two kind of decisions get made at midnight, bad and worse. Because now we're looking at the clock going, well, we gotta have somebody, so let's just pick something, and that's not where I want you to be. I want you to be confident when you leave here that everybody's behind the decision you made. So can we set 6 and 7 for the 2 interviews? Or actually 3, so it's gonna be 6, 6:45, 7:30.
Could we do like 6:15? Only because if he's driving from Romulus with the roads, I just had to go, my mom had to borrow my truck, so I had to drive out to Waterford, and it should have been, like, it was like a 28-minute, took me almost an hour, so, just so he has leeway and he doesn't miss it.
So I'm looking at 6:15, 7, and 7:45, which means you're not gonna get interviews done until 8:30. Take a short break, and then you're gonna come back, and so be prepared, bring the water, bring the snack, because we may be here a while, till you get to the decision you're all comfortable with. Does that work for you, or do you want to push it back another 15 minutes?
Well, I'm just wondering, that'll work, I guess.
And if you're running late, get hold of Cindy, we'll push everything back to you get, I can tell candidates, hey, hang tight for a few minutes, we're gonna be behind the schedule for, 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. So the other thing you gotta start thinking about is, you gotta start thinking about questions you wanna ask. Okay? What questions do you wanna ask? Think about probably 2 questions per person. They don't have to be the same questions for each of them. But I know you're not used to it, but I'm gonna ask you to send me the questions ahead of time, so I can proof them to make sure we're not getting into some gray area that we can't get back from. And I do that. Any search I do, I'd like to screen them. Not to say you're bad, it's a bad question. I just don't want to get into, are you gonna get pregnant this year? We got a problem. Or are you gonna live in the district? We got a problem, kind of thing. You gotta.
So
When
2
do you
or
want
3,
those
we don't want to
questions?
go much beyond.
No, I'd say 2
3.
questions per person
Yeah.
and see where it goes.
And when do you want those by?
Monday's fine. Monday. It gives you the weekend to work on them.
My question is, what Barb asked, do we need 3? Do we need all 3 here?
Well, you guys have to tell me what you want. I can't
I know,
make that decision.
the majority of the people are thinking of 2.
Two, yeah.
I'm the one that suggested the 3rd, but if there's no support, there's no reason to lead her on either.
Okay?
So,
I've narrowed down to 2.
Okay. So 1 external, 1 internal? Is that what we're gonna gather?
Yeah.
The school? Okay. So 2, then we can do 6:30 and 7:30. Give you a little time, and that way you have a 45, 50-minute window to really probe a little bit in that discussion, and that way if you have follow-up questions or whatever. And I'll tell them to have a 3 to 5 minute presentation to start the event where they're at, what they see as their role, what they see as their first 30, 60, 90-day kind of thing. What is that position? Intro me to them and let them come to you versus us telling them what it is. Let's see if you're on the same page ahead of time. Okay? So 6:30, 7:30, 5-minute intro. Right? Contract, guideline, back. I will email these people tomorrow morning.
If you were starting the interviews at 6:30, you still have to do the first part of the board, which would be the comments and all of
Yeah.
the other things. Just
Yeah,
Remind
we'll
them.
do that, and then as soon as it's only, what, 5 minutes? You guys have been doing it about 3 minutes time?
As long as there's no comments or anything
Yep.
coming through,
So
then that's
that's
fine.
not a problem. Yeah, we'll do that, all that, and then we'll start at 6:30, post it at 6. As soon as that's done, we'll put the first candidate, and I'll give you I'll watch the clock and back and give you the kind of 5 minutes or one more question kind of thing, so we can wrap it up in time. Okay? Questions? I will send an email to you guys all tomorrow, putting this on, of what we all agree, all the dates, times, things we've agreed to, so that everybody has it on the same. I'll get with the candidates, and as soon as I hear from them, I'll let you know that separately. I have to stress to you, do not hit reply all. Do not be discussing. Do not send anything to the whole board. If you got something that needs to be said, you send it to me. I'm not foiled. You're foiled. As soon as you start talking to each other, we got a problem. Or I talk to somebody and I know I've talked to 3 other people independently, but I got 4 people with me. You don't, because that's round robin. That's predetermining a decision. The decisions are made here. And I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but I want to make sure we're 100% on the right side of the line when it comes to the meetings. Again, it's a trust thing for your candidates, and more so your community. They have to trust that you're doing it here in front of them and not over the internet or email. Don't get bogged down with social media. You're going to hear a lot on social media. Okay? Listen to it, but don't try to jump in, don't try to fix it, don't try to correct it. That's people's opinion. You're not going to change it. So don't, it's one little piece of a lot of information you're going to gather. Don't give it any more weight than what you see and you know and what your heart tells you. Don't give it more weight or less weight. You got to take all this into consideration when you're making this kind of a tough decision. Okay? Good? We got a plan? Everybody okay?
Yes, sir.
Everybody agree?
Yes, sir.
And I told my wife, I go home shortly, it should be a quick meeting tonight. No interviews.
I did have something to bring up. It's been requested that we support Mr. Abdullah releasing the contracts. I guess they're on his laptop so that they can be worked on. We have like the food service. There's some other ones he has that no one has access to right now that we need to vote on soon, and he won't be at Monday's meeting. So if he can just release them to Mary, then Mary can make the changes that we all had agreed upon, and we can maybe keep that moving forward. Everybody concurs with that? Yes? Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to amend the agenda, make it a directive?
Actually, they're on his district laptop, so when he turns the district laptop in, he doesn't have to wipe it. We can just take it from there.
Do you know when that's happening?
Should be before the 13th.
But did we not talk today about having those contracts on Monday's agenda?
The 18th.
What you need to do, Mary, you need to get your IT to back that computer up tomorrow so that they have a copy of everything that's on it in case
There's actually a
gets-
shared drive that
Okay.
it's supposed to be downloaded to.
But-
That's what I was going to do.
They need to pull a copy and put it separately so that if that shared drive gets corrupted on the way
That's all
out.
of our drives.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you don't want even to go in and get those few contracts or whatever you think he needs. You just want to protect yourself by getting a hard copy put in a separate, backup copy,
Right.
just in
And I know
case.
there's a couple that we need to,
But you just want
that need to
everything.
come in front of us.
Right, but everything that's on there, you just want backed up to a separate drive on a backup tape so they can then, if there's a question, your IT can go pull it. It's pretty standard that they're backing that up anyways, and you just want to make sure before.
But I don't want to put it on Mary. Sometimes if we don't make a motion, then it's not done.
Right.
Because then it's only a suggestion by the board. So I guess I'm asking, we're all here. Do we feel we need to make a motion so we can make that done? Okay, trustee Chambliss.
President Holder, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
To support.
Just to say what.
To make a directive to release the contracts for adjustment by Mary Kennedy,
And to back it up.
and to back it up.
Well, the motion is to protect all data in the superintendent's holding right now. That's your motion.
Okay, I thought I
You
was
want
talking about
everything,
contracts.
that way everything, contracts, emails, letters in his desk, that's all school district property, that needs to all be protected. So
Okay.
that's the motion, you're directing the superintendent to preserve and turn over all Madison programs, events, papers, files, software, hardware, phones, whatever he has that's district, he needs to protect it and turn it over in a timely fashion.
Okay.
That covers everything.
Okay.
A second.
All righty, any more discussion? This is just to amend the agenda. Okay. All in favor, roll call vote, please. Mary?
Crystal Beaver,
Yes.
Rebecca Chambliss,
Yes.
Mark Holcomb,
Yes,
Cindy Holder,
Yes.
Barbara Castle,
Yes.
Gloria Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes to amend the agenda.
Now we need a maker and support to protect all data and turn it over,
All district property
all district property and
preserved
information.
and returned.
You have it written down? Go ahead.
Trustee Chambliss?
I'd like to make a motion to give a directive to the superintendent to protect and secure all digital and physical district property, including his laptop, emails, letters, backup on everything in his cell phone, and anything that Madison District owns intellectually or physically,
And return to,
and return to Ms. Kennedy in a timely fashion.
yes.
And I'll second that.
And does that mean after the 13th?
Up to the anytime up to the 13th.
But we need the contract signed, so we can be on the agenda Monday.
Right,
There's also
but
going to
you,
be a meeting. on
once
the
you put that in, he can go.
We have two back-to-back meetings. We have, the first meeting is technically being held on the 11th, and then our third week meeting is on the 18th.
Right, but he's not going to be here on the 11th, and he obviously won't
Right.
be here on the 18th.
Right.
So by the 13th, we would like,
He'd have to, but he can turn it in earlier.
correct,
But you're just telling him, you know, we want our keys and our phones and passcodes and everything else.
Because if this is not voted on, if the contract is not accepted immediately, it will affect the staff members getting their raises on the next pay period, correct? If we vote on it on the 18th, will it go on the next paycheck? Because I know that was a concern, like they were told if they did not have it signed by today, it would not be reflected on the next paycheck.
So that would be, I'm trying to think with payroll.
Sorry.
It would have to be approved on the 11th for it to be effective on the pay after that. So it would have to be by next, but that's next Monday.
so
That being
hopefully,
said, all your meetings are as special meetings, so you can always make an action to amend agenda to vote on something, to approve a contract. That's why we post all meetings here as special, so you can amend your agenda for votes. So technically, you could vote in any meeting that we have. So it could be the Wednesday, the 13th meeting that we could amend and do that.
But it'll be after the 11th, so the next paycheck will not be reflective of the raise.
Well, I think she's got the idea and she can walk in with this mess, with this motion tomorrow and say, hey, they want to get these contracts, can you please give them to me?
maybe
You're
it'll
just,
work itself.
let it,
Okay.
she knows what you need in your time frame, and it's more just that he's aware that this is the directive from the board. And he wants to get his last paycheck from you.
And I know that are we going to get to see the contracts beforehand?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because we were the ones who saw changes we wanted to make.
right.
Okay.
And Mary's
I
aware.
look at you all contracts beforehand. I have the current contracts as they are that aren't signed, so whatever we need to change can be changed or amended.
We have one contract,
I know which one we're talking
yeah,
about.
has a specific paragraph in it
Right.
that should go away.
That can be adjusted,
Okay.
because I have the original Word doc for that.
Okay.
Okay, Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Crystal Beaver,
Yes.
Rebecca Chambliss,
Yes.
Mark Holcomb,
Yes.
Cindy Holder,
Yes.
Barbara Castle,
Yes.
Deborah Ott. Oh, never mind.
Absent.
Absent. Gloria Thompson.
Yes.
It's late. Matt, motion passes.
Okay. One last motion to make for the evening. Mr. Holcomb, would you like to make the motion to adjourn?
Sure, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And Trustee Thompson supports. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Mary?
Gloria Thompson,
Yes.
Barbara Castle,
Yes.
Cindy Holder,
Yes.
Mark Holcomb,
Yes.
Rebecca Chambliss,
Yes.
Crystal Beaver.
Yes.
Motion passes to adjourn meeting at 8:51 PM.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mary, I have a question for you.